From the days of old, traditional institutions in Nigeria had depended on revenues from their subjects for the provision of certain services to the people. Though unstructured and arbitrary, the local authorities exacted the levies and the people responded to facilitate governance. Farewell to days of arbitrariness and welcome to a regulated system that clearly defines what to pay, when to pay, where to pay, and who to pay. Globally, responsible governments prioritize the welfare of their people, and in Nigeria, the Muhammadu Buhari administration has provided massive infrastructure in all parts of the country for the good of the people. Of course, this is made possible by the taxes Nigerians pay through the Federal Inland Revenue Service, which is empowered to assess, collect, and account for all revenues accruable to the Federation.
The FIRS generates tax revenue for the whole Federation.
The development of any country depends largely on the amount of resources available to the government to provide the basic needs of the people. When citizens fulfill their tax obligations, the government is able to unlock the resources required for public investment and growth of infrastructure. The Federal Inland Revenue Service, which is charged with the statutory function of collecting revenues for the government, originally came into existence in 1943, but through the FIRS Establishment Act 13 of 2007, transformed into its current autonomous status. Mohammed Maman Nami, the charismatic tax expert who heads the Apex Tax Administration body, came into office with a clear vision of what he wanted to achieve.
Since the inception of my tenure, we have been working in harmony with the critical stakeholders, such as the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, particularly on issues of policy making and policy administration, the treaties and etc. The National Assembly on the annual Finance Act and the issues surrounding budget, oversight functions and securities and investigative agencies, among others, e.g. EFCC. The Nigerian police, as you are aware, we have over 350 policemen in our employment.
The mandate of the Federal Inland Revenue Service is anchored on a tripod of tax policy, legislation, and administration, all interacting to ensure the success of the agency in tax management in Nigeria. A seasoned accountant and tax administrator, Mohammed Nami leads a team of dedicated staff and professionals committed to excellence despite the challenges facing the economy.
The challenges that face this country's economy, our strategies are paying off as we are able to do better continuously. We have achieved huge success from one, deployment of technology to ease operations and reduce human errors. In other words, we'll be able to get the National Assembly as a result of insistence from the federal government of Nigeria and the directive from the federal government that we should be deployed technology for purpose of tax administration in Nigeria. What does that imply? We want to, going forward, use technology based on his directive to assess, collect, and account for tax revenue in Nigeria. Restructuring also of the organization structure for efficient and effective service delivery was another key thing that we did last year, to the extent that at a time or at a point in time we were able to onboard the entire operational base of the office. And we now have, instead of the usual 6 operational groups, we now have up as much as 7. So we also have done something to help boost the image of the government, and also for ease of tax administration, and also for purpose of raising revenue and ensure check and balancing in the system by segmenting tax audit functions and even the tax operations into micro, small, and large tax audits or large tax operational offices.
Leveraging on the immense possibilities of technology, the Federal Inland Revenue Service has recorded impressive strides towards ensuring efficiency in service delivery. Far from the past when manual processing of information was the vogue, the deployment of machines in tax administration has opened up the agency to the numerous advantages of the computer age.
Using technology, we are able to link with our taxpayers and collect data as transactions are happening. And therefore, efficiency in data collection is there. Two is that there's little room for tax evasion, because as the transaction is happening, using our technology, even though physically we are not there, but machine is there on our behalf, is collecting data on our behalf, is sending it to us. We are already knowing what the turnover of this entity is, what tax it should pay, and all of that. So this is the connection between what we do and the use of technology.
More than ever before, we've leveraged on technology, and that has come with the support of government. Our focus is to achieve real-time tax collection process, and that's why we deploy a solution that we call Tax Pro Max. With Tax Pro Max, you'll be able to register your company, you'll be able to file in your returns, you'll be able to make payments, and even generate tax clearance certificates.
The Muhammadu Buhari administration appreciates the positive impact of taxation on the economy of Nigeria and as a strategic tool for the promotion of the overall development of the country. This informed most of the provisions of the Finance Acts 2019 and 2020, which have in turn spurred the Federal Inland Revenue Service to greater heights.
The country and the whole world is shifting away from fossil oil to non-oil sources of getting revenue, and the number one in it is taxation, particularly personal income tax. This informed a lot of the provisions in the Finance Act 2019 and the 2020, because for you to be able to achieve this migration from reliance on oil revenue to non-oil revenue, you have to make some amendment to be in line with the changes in the way businesses are being carried out. Before now, you walk into market to buy goods. I cannot remember when last Mohammed, went to market to buy anything. It's either I walk into a supermarket that's fully digitalized, or I order for goods while I'm sitting in my house and it's delivered to me. So if you don't amend the laws, you will not be able to have access to records that these market players are using in keeping their records.
It is also to the credit of the Mohammed Nami management in the Federal Inland Revenue Service that the first ever National Tax Dialogue was held earlier in the year 2021. The event, which had in attendance an impressive audience that included President Muhammadu Buhari, top government functionaries, tax experts, prominent speakers, and panelists, afforded the participants the platform to brainstorm on ways to ease tax collection and improve the country's revenue base.
Initiative of an annual dialogue on taxation as one step in the right direction. This is because of the benefits of pulling experts together for their thoughts on a crucial issue like taxation.
We must develop long-term solutions that improve revenue collection, whilst also balancing the need to provide some economic stimulus, some of which are contained in the new Finance Act. States have also sought to balance this by improving the collection outside payroll taxes, despite the need to offer some relief to offset the impact of COVID-19.
Now, if companies invest in Africa, they should pay taxes in Africa. Governments should use business investment treaties and avoidance of double taxation to strengthen these incentives. Now, if a company works in Nigeria, benefits from Nigeria, it should pay taxes in Nigeria.
In his message to the gathering, the president directed the ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government and business enterprises to grant the Federal Inland Revenue Service unrestrained access to their systems for the purposes of tax collection.
I have directed all government agencies and businesses enterprises to grant Federal Inland Revenue Services access to their systems for seamless connections. You must ensure that its deployment of technology for automation is done in line with international best practices.
Despite the president's directive to MDAs to collaborate with the agency, the service is still faced with the challenges of funding for the deployment of relevant technologies, difficulties in obtaining tax information, as well as the evasion and non-remittance of taxes by some citizens, corporate organizations, and MDAs.
If you are keeping government money, and the money that ordinarily should be for the citizens, or the money that has been paid by the citizens through you, particularly issues like VAT, they are just agent of collection. It is the person who buys these goods from them, or those that enjoy this service, that deposit the money through them. If you don't bring it out, we now go after them to make sure that we recover such money using the Special Tax Crime Department.
Given that instruction, set the tone already that, look, if the president, that's the highest authority in this country, we say this is the way to go, then everybody is going to fall in line. And so that singular pronouncement had made it a lot easier for us to also, on our own, look at internally our data security system, data confidentiality system, and to ensure that when we get data from these organizations, we do not mismanage them, we don't expose them to unauthorized persons.
Most of the business transactions are being done online. We just have to follow to track such transactions, those that are liable to tax, so that we'll be able to effectively and adequately tax them.
Yes, indeed, the remittances are needed for funding the several critical infrastructure being executed by the federal government across the country. The development of the railways, opening up of the inland waterways, construction of highways, airports, and many other projects depend on the payment and remittance of taxes, which provide the fuel for President Buhari's passion for infrastructure.
Infrastructure in terms of roads, in terms of rail, in terms of bridges, in terms of airport, all over the country. Things are happening. I recall the president telling the finance minister at the onset of the pandemic that, one, make sure that salaries do not fail. Two, pensions must not fail, and infrastructure must continue. Despite the fact that oil prices had crashed from 60-something to 20-something dollars per barrel, the president told the finance minister, those three things must not fail: salaries, pensions, and infrastructure.
Of course, the president's directive also meant that the Federal Inland Revenue Service must work hard to generate the funds despite the COVID-19 pandemic disruptions. Back in the day, the fear of the tax collector marked the beginning of wisdom. Then it was common to see full-grown adults running away from tax agents. To avoid harassment and humiliation, taxable adults were then compelled to move about with evidence of payment.
We saw then they used to wear khaki and this kind of hats on their head, sometimes something that looks like an helmet. And then our father would see them and they'd run into the bush. So, it's what I also witnessed. That is what we call adversarial type of tax administration, in which case the tax authority sees the taxpayer not as a friend, not as somebody, a partner to collaborate, not as a stakeholder. and see it as an adversary. And so that was the methodology then. Probably it worked then. In today's business world, it cannot work.
Adversarial approach, he calls it, but that was in the past. Through the years, the agency has evolved and now seeks collaboration with some sister establishments to deploy more effective and friendlier techniques of generating taxes for government business. The creative shift of focus from direct to indirect taxation is yielding dividends and points the way to a more efficient approach in revenue collection.
It's a deliberate effort by government to shift focus from direct taxes to indirect taxes. And that what that means is that we minimize the taxes, we minimize rate of tax on income. Rather, we focus more on those areas that has to do with spending. Because once we have income, we do three things with income. It's either we save it, we invest it, or we spend. So, as you are spending, then it's more reasonable to tax at that point, and that's why there is this a shift to income to indirect taxes, and that's why in 2019 Finance Act there is an increase of value-added tax rate from 5% to 7.5%.
The profile of the Federal Inland Revenue Service has been on the rise since 2015 when the Buhari administration came into office. But under the purposeful leadership of Mohammed Nami, the image of FIRS as a strategic agency of government has been taken a notch higher. This is made possible by the contribution of the board members who represent the North Central, Northwest, Northeast, Southeast, South-South, and Southwest geopolitical zones of the country. And of course, the expertise of the top functionaries of the agency. The board, management, and staff of the Federal Inland Revenue Service felicitate with the government and urge the people to keep hope alive.
Let's just keep our hope alive. It is possible. A better Nigeria is possible. The President of the Federal Republic is laying a foundation of being a selfless president, of being somebody who is not greedy, of being somebody who has utmost good faith in this country.